Joe Biden is the president-elect, but the U.S. elections are not over yet. In the state of Georgia, there'll be a runoff election for both Senate seats on January 5th, 2021. It's the Democrats' last immediate chance to achieve a narrow majority in the U.S. Senate. If both races are called for the Democratic candidates, John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock, Joe Biden could begin to tackle his ambitious policy program with legislative backing from both chambers of the United States Congress. With so much at stake, we went to Georgia to take a closer look at the state's history and politics, and to learn why this southern state with a decades-long and firmly rooted Republican tradition has become so important to the Democratic Party.
Georgia flipped blue for two reasons. One, we had terrific turnout amongst our Black, Asian, and Latino communities. But on top of that, and perhaps what really turned it blue, was we had moderate voters in the suburbs who may traditionally vote Republican, vote Democrat in huge numbers. Atlanta for the last few decades has been viewed as this blue dot in a sea of red in Georgia. And so I think in many ways it's been the heart of the Democratic Party and the Democratic effort in Georgia. But that is changing rapidly. We're seeing Democratic strongholds pop up in the suburbs and in other cities in the state. And so we have lots of company around the state now, and it's exciting to see.
That's been a challenge for us, but I think that we have so many organizations on the ground doing good work, knocking doors, which is something that we didn't do in the general election. It's something that Republicans have been doing. They've been running around the state or the country knocking on doors without masks, and they have an advantage on us in that regard. But we are now knocking doors and pouring tons of money into digital advertising and national TV advertising and mail, and I think that because of the stamina and the dedication and the good organization and strategy of these smaller organizations on the ground, we really have a good chance of doing what's necessary to turn out voters. Part of the electorate is Asian American voters and Latino voters who came out with force that we hadn't seen before. And so we are trying to get these folks out again and hope that we can see a surge in young voters the way that we saw in 2018 for Stacey Abrams. But I think that these are groups that are with activists working within them.
We did a lot of work on voter engagement, and so our field team hit the ground hard, but the important thing that we did was we actually registered almost 80,000 voters in the 7th district to vote by mail who'd never voted before. In the Democratic primary from 2018 to 2020, over half of those folks had never voted in a Democratic primary before, and engaging those folks to vote in the general election was a really important piece of how we won and flipped this district. Georgia is one of the most rapidly growing states in the country, especially when in Forsyth counties in the 7th congressional district. Those are two of the fastest growing counties. 1 in 4 of the district residents aren't from the United States, so a really big immigrant population. The South Asian community is huge and growing and really vibrant in the 7th district. I do think that the Democratic message of the economy, of healthcare, of fairness is really resonating with the immigrants who come here from other countries.
The growth of the non-white portion of the electorate, the increasing diversification of the state, as well as the movement of suburban Atlanta towards the Democratic Party will make it increasingly competitive, keep it competitive, and at some point may make it more like Virginia than even North Carolina. We have a good shot, really good shot. I think there's a good chance we win both of them. So we're certainly being helped by the unwillingness of the Republicans to acknowledge reality. Yeah. Joe Biden won the election.
Georgia is going to have to overcome is the way that our state, but also our nation, has been structurally designed. In Georgia, we have a long history of voter suppression, specifically voters of color, Black voters, and Latinx voters. And so what we really need to focus on, at least for this election, is ensuring that people can vote fairly and access the polls without having to wait in long lines, without having to fear that their ballot will be overturned, and ultimately that people can actually exercise their right to vote.
The election is important for shaping the outcomes that we want to see for ourselves and our communities. Our vote is our way to make change. And Georgia, we don't want just Georgia on your mind. We want Georgia at the ballot box.